Introduction to Game Design Unity series. So in the first episode, we looked at the basic layout and what most of these things are and what they do. And this is where we ended. We did not do anything. We just looked at the basic layout of, or the basic user interface, I should say, of Unity. Now, in today's episode, we're going to look at some game objects that Unity has, that it comes with, and then we're going to see what we can do with them. And yeah, we're going to go on from there. So the first one we have is, if you right-click in the hierarchy, you get this little menu here, and then you go to a 3D object, and then we've got a number of 3D objects here. So we've got the first one, a cube, and once you do that, a cube gets added to the scene, and that's the cube there. So if we zoom in on it, if you move it around, you can do the same thing that I was talking about, where you can set its position and stuff like that. And cubes are very important, as you'll see when we start making the car racing games soon. Cubes are very important because we can do a lot of things with cubes. We can use cubes as triggers to start getting, maybe start a cutscene or different stuff. You can use cubes for that stuff. Resizing it is the same as well. You can make it bigger, smaller, like that. So, and on the inspector side, we can see that unlike the directional light and the main camera, the cube has got some new stuff. We've got the mesh, which is what you can see here, and then the render of the mesh. So if we take the mesh renderer off, you can see the cube kind of disappears, but it's still there. The other thing is the box collider. Now, the box collider can be used as a trigger. So if it's a trigger, that means objects can go through that and trigger something. And if it's not, then objects cannot go through it. And if the box collider is turned off, objects can just go through that particular game object. Most of this stuff are going to be the same with the other game objects. So we've got, for instance, here we've got a sphere. Let's just move it up, which is that. That's a sphere. It has the same stuff, but for it, instead of box collider, it's got a sphere collider. And everything is the same. It can also be used as a trigger. Everything else is the same. We have a capsule. Now, capsules are going to come in hand when we start making, for instance, an RPG game. I plan on making an RPG game on this series soon. Capsules, the capsule collider itself. You can use a capsule if you want to make a quick character controller. You can use a capsule to for it to be your character. Then you can make a character controller using a capsule. But the capsule collider is what we use for humanoid characters for their colliders, because you cannot use a box collider. Then after that, we have a plane. Now, a plane, it's just a plane. That's what I can say about it. If you were to make this capsule, if you wanted to make a controller, a simple character controller, you would use a plane and make this capsule move around like that on the plane. It's better than using a whole terrain. And also, planes can be used with shaders to create different effects. So if you wanted to create like water effect, you can use a plane with a different shader to make that effect. I want to show you some of those things, how they look soon. We're not going to look at ragdoll, but we're not going to concentrate on a quad, a ragdoll. We're going to, and a tree, and maybe even 3D text. We're not going to concentrate on all that. We're going to look at things that we're going to be using. So, for instance, a terrain. Now, a terrain, unlike a plane, a terrain is like land. Okay, it's more like land. So you can use brushes to raise and lower it to create some kind of mountains. And if you see this, you can do that, and you can create your own little world here. So a terrain is really important if you're making any kind of game, to be honest. Any kind of game might use a terrain, unless it's those kind what do we call them? The word is gone, but most games you should be able to use a terrain, and you can create something like that. And it's like a piece of land that you can do anything with. It has got so many settings. We're going to get into terrains in detail later, but for now, you just know your terrain is like a piece of land. Then we've got a wind zone. Now, a wind zone just basically is just the direction in which wind will be blowing. So if you have some game objects like trees, they will have an effect of wind blowing, and they'll be shaking like wind is actually blowing in the world. So we're gonna take a look at all that nice in detail when we get to creating our own little map for our first racing game. So let's get rid of all these things right now. Let me just give me a minute. Okay, so what haven't we looked at? We're done with 3D objects. 2D objects, we're in a 3D environment, so we're not going to be using these a lot. We're going to be using them for UI, but not a lot. We've got effects, and under effects, we've got particle system, force field, trail, and line. Now, particle systems, we're going to be using these a lot. You can create basically rainfall, sandstorms, flames, different types of stuff can be created using particle systems, and you're going to see some of the particle systems that we're going to be using in future videos, I should say. Then you've got lights. We looked at lights on a much lighter scale in the previous video, but we already talked about a directional light, a spot light, a point light, an area light. But then we've got a reflection probe and a light probe group. Let's start with the reflection probe. What a reflection probe generally does is that it makes surfaces reflective. I guess it's in the name, reflection probe. So you can set if you come here to the inspector, you've got so many things. You've got like the resolution of the reflection probe. The higher the resolution, the more reflective it is, and the lower the resolution, the less reflective the probe actually is. I think that's just the general thing about reflection probes. Most of these things we're gonna learn them better. Yeah, so we're gonna look at these things more in detail when we're actually using them. That way, it's easier to learn by seeing the thing do what it does. So the other one is the light probe group, and these generally add high quality lighting effects to moving objects. So we're going to also try and use them. I don't use them as much, but we're going to try and use them for people to learn. Then we've got audio, which is where you can add audio source and audio reverb zone. This is just, you can add audios to your game. Video, I don't use that much. Then we've got the UI. Now, the UI has got so much. The UI is basically what you see. As we all know, it's user interface. What you see, you can create so many things. You can create buttons, which can be used as controllers for people to play your game. You can create health bars. You can create so much stuff using UI. So we've got the text, just the general text, which once you say create text, it will create a canvas, which is basically, the canvas is your screen. So when you zoom out like that, you see this little outline here, this gizmo over here. This is basically your screen. So your text over here is going to be in the center of your screen. Everything that's in this area of the canvas as a UI element will be seen on your screen. So when you come to the inspector side of text, we've got its transform now. Here it's kind of different. If you look at game objects, we can just move them around the 3D space. For UI, they're not really moving around 3D space, but in 2D because of the canvas. They move around on the canvas. So we've got its transform and its anchor point. So if we made its anchor be top right and then we zeroed out this, the text will appear on the top right. So let's do it this way so that we can read it nicely. Yeah, it will appear on the top left. What was I saying? Then you've got the other anchor points. We're gonna get into this as well a lot more when we are doing UI, because we're gonna use most of them. But that's about the anchors. You can anchor it wherever you want it to be, and it will stick there. So for instance, right now I've put it there, but if we want it just to be here, over here, then we can come to the rect tool. I once talked about the rect tool in the previous episode and said it would see how it's used. This is a good part to see its use, because you can just drag the text like that using the rect tool, and then you can just increase the borders like that. Then you can increase under text here, you can increase you can change the font to bold. You can get new fonts. I'm going to show you guys how to get new fonts when we are working on the first game, which I've made up my mind is going to be a racing game. So once we start that, we're going to get into UI, and then we're going to look at how to import new fonts and make everything nice and pretty. You've got font size, so you can increase that and then have your text bigger. Then you've got the alignment, which you can center it there. Then you've got the color, and you can change the color. Then under UI again, we've got the Text Mesh Pro. Now Text Mesh Pro it's like text, but for it's high quality. The text is much sharper, and you can make better looking text with Text Mesh Pro, unlike just the text tool. You can make beautiful titles and stuff like that with the Text Mesh Pro. We're not going to look at the Text Mesh Pro in detail right now, but we will get to it, that's for sure, because I like to use the Text Mesh Pro for my game titles. And then we've got images. So images can be used for a lot of things. Right now it's just an image, but if you added a sprite, you could turn it into a certain kind of thing that you want it to be. So for instance, if you wanted to make a health bar, you could use this image to put like an avatar face here, and then you could use stuff like the slider to increase the health. All these things, we're gonna get into them real soon. Let me see here, how many minutes have we been? Okay, so let's have a recap here. We've got game objects, which in our 3D space, we've got 3D game objects, which are these. And we can import our own game objects that we might want to use. And I'm going to show you how to import game objects when we start making the car racing game, which should be the next episode. This is just to show you the game objects and show you what they do. Then we've got the reflection probe, light probe in the lighting side. How do I say this? Under the lighting, you've got the directional light, point light, spotlight, area light, reflection probe, and light probe group. Then you've got under effects, the particle systems, the trail and light. Then you've got the UI, which is the user interface. And if you come to game view, most of the things that we've put there, you can see them there. We'll get to use them much better when we begin the making of the racing game in the next episode. I think learning by seeing how it's done is gonna be easier than telling you that, oh, this does this, and not showing you that process or it doing what I say it does. So we're going to begin making the car racing game in the next episode, which is going to be fun, which is going to be real fun. So that's something we should all be anticipating. And for you not to miss out on that, you should turn on post notifications, subscribe if you haven't, so that we can make that car racing game together, and we can make other games together. We can make games of your suggestions, and we can do all that fun stuff. So I want to end this here. But since I've said we're going to be making a car racing game in the next one, rather than us just end it here, we're going to delete the canvas and the reflection probe. Then what we're going to do, let's bring the directional light. We're going to leave it like this. So I want you guys to also just create terrain. And that's, once you've created your terrain, that's it. Just create your terrain, have it in the game. Then I'm gonna probably release the episode of the first episode of in our car racing tutorial the same day as this one. So just create your terrain, wait for the next video, and then we're gonna carry on from there.